Namaste and welcome to the 48th episode of TeaTalk. This is your host, Dr.Shilu. Today, again, I have a very special guest for you all the way from Pakistan, Karachi. Yes. Her name is Professor Dr. Kieran Bashir Ahmed, and she teaches clinical psychology, and she is also the head of department at Institute of Professional Psychology in Karachi, Pakistan. And sometimes, I feel just amazed having the technology here, how it has connected the world and making it a beautiful small place, right? By the time when I will be talking to her, she would be having her evening tea in Pakistan, whereas I'm in Texas, like like a morning cup of tea. But it's beautiful how it has brought the people together. I didn't get a chance to meet her yet in person, but thanks to technology again, that I'm following what she has been doing in the field of academia, mental health awareness, and not only that, but she is impacting, inspiring many women, many girls, many people, students all over there, and being here in Texas also, I'm cheering what she has been doing, and also I applaud to the work that she has been doing. And having said this, and we'll talk more when she comes to us and share the table with us, but before that, I would like to say that she has one of the cutest cat, Penny, and I just love seeing her pose there. So let's welcome our Dr. Kieran Bashir Ahmed in our TeaTalk today. Okay, welcome, Dr. Kieran. And first of all, thank you for receiving and accepting my invitation to join this TeaTalk all the way from Pakistan, Karachi.
You're most welcome. In fact, when I got your invitation, I was quite intrigued and interested that, all right, what is this going to be all about? Because I've given quite a few interviews over here as well. And it's always some topic or the other. And then I had this preliminary discussion, I think, with you. And it was quite different. So looking forward to today's discussion with you.
Thank you.
And I really like, I should say at this point, I really like the concept and the, little take you have on the name of TikTok versus TeaTalk. So yes, this is very beneficial. I would really like to appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Yes, because as a family science professional, I always kind of like try to incorporate the idea of having one-to-one conversation, whether it is in family or outside, right? Yes. So, and that helps. So thank you for your sweet note that it means much. And again, and it's a joy as much honor to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know how to begin, where to start, but please tell us about yourself, because the way I presented you is you are a professor and you're psychology, right? Clinical psychology, but please tell us about yourself.
Okay, so I'll just give my brief introduction here. So yes, as I have been already introduced, I am an assistant professor at Bahria University here in Karachi, Pakistan. And I have been teaching since the past, it will be in fact 15 years in September now. So that's a very long time that I've spent with this department. And it's, it's an institute of professional psychology that I'm in. And I did my PhD here, so it's my alma mater as well. I did my PhD here in clinical psychology and worked with disabled adolescents and those suffering from different types of visual, physical, and even auditory issues, hearing issues. So I dealt with some of those things along with their families. I have always been interested in research, writing. I know that we met many years ago in the SARC conferences in India. And there, as you know, I have been very interested in literature, language, Sufism. Some of the areas of interest are in those domains as well. So along with teaching, there's always writing. Recently, I started on something else because I'm always interested in learning new things. So I recently launched my own skincare brand and got trained in that as well. Yes. So I was actually dealing with a few skincare issues myself. And then I realized that there's no point in lathering myself in all these creams that have more chemicals. So then I have to take, in fact, more things to combat the effects of those chemicals. So it's a redundant process in itself. And I decided that, well, why not go the organic way? And what better way to go the organic way than to, dabble in it yourself? So did that as well.
Oh my God.
From a very age, I've been interested in, art, literature, drama, creativity, or all those elements that come along with the expressive arts domain. So I've grown up like that. Behind me, I'm sure you can see a couple of things. Those are, the calligraphic areas. And right behind me over here, I think you can see this painting at the back. That's
Who
the
said
little
that you have
calligraphy.
wrote that? You have made that.
Yeah, and no, this is by my father. So both my parents were artists. My father was an architect, and my mother was an artist as well. She was a designer. So I get a lot of my creative inclinations from my parents because as I was growing up, I always had art, literature all around me. My father was a poet as well. So it just comes around.
Wow.
That's a bit about me.
Wow. I don't know, like, again, where to begin, right? Because, uh, I mean, though we didn't get a chance to meet in person, but I would like to thanks to technology because it is kind of connecting the like-minded people and who they
Yeah,
have been always like following you and being inspired in many ways, like even from like I'm in Texas, right? So all the way here and you are that side, but still, I mean, the work that you have been doing, the passion that reflects in the work you're posting, I mean, it is really very, I mean, I have taken that to my heart. And so,
thank
uh,
you so much.
yes, so it is really a privilege to know, to understand, and to see some of the works that we have been doing from that distance because geography itself kind of dissolve when we are so close because of the technology, right? Because of social media as well. So having said that, please let me meet that, let me meet a little girl, Kieran, who went to school, right? And becoming a doctor, a professor, Kieran now. So please tell us about some of the journey, some of the choices that you made, bringing that little girl to this very day.
Sure, sure. In fact, it's a very interesting journey because on the outset, it might seem like, 10 long years of school, straight long years in the same school, and then 4 long years in college. But there's more to it.
Yeah.
So where to start again? Okay, I actually ended up in my Montessori school system here in Pakistan. We have the Montessori school system, we have the kindergarten system, and various other systems have now branched up as children, they go to pre-primary, some call it. So there are various systems that abound, and they start from as young as, well, 3 years old. I ended up going to school, not school, in fact, Montessori, much earlier, that I was 1.5 year old. And
Uh,
now that came about because, well, as a child, I have been told, of course, I don't remember all that, but I've been told by my parents that I was quite precocious. I started learning the alphabet way earlier and recognizing it when I was barely perhaps a few months old. So there was this young person who had come to our house. She was a family friend, and she saw me doing all of that and more. And she told my parents that this girl should be in school. And they said, well, that she's too young. And she insisted that, well, there's this Montessori school system, and she had done a few, diplomas or work in that. And she was introducing it in Pakistan at that time. So it was still pretty new. And she said that it would be great if, she were to join us. So that's how I ended up in Montessori at a very young age. And incidentally, I stayed there till quite an older age. The reason being that when I turned around 5 or 6, which is, the typical age to go into primary school in Pakistan,
right.
the school that my parents were aiming for, that school, that particular school, had a system where they would not take anyone younger than 7 years of age. So, with the age system that they had, and my parents were still aiming for that particular school because they felt that it was like a school system, a lovely building, grounds, sports facilities, and all the things that parents perhaps look for in a good school. So it had all those facilities, and they were quite determined to get me into that. So they waited. And so I ended up staying for more years than was necessary in Montessori,
You started
while I had
staying.
actually completed everything at 4 years of age. So at 4 years of age, after completing everything in Montessori, I was repeating the same class over and over again, twice. So I finally turned 6, and then I landed up in primary school. And incidentally, you might have heard, of course, that a lot of children on the first day of school, they don't want to go, they're crying, and all of that. I cried for a very different reason. I ended up in class, and on the first day, yes, that's why when my tears came out, it was not that I was missing my parents, not at all, nothing like that. In fact, I think I barely ever cried in school. The one time I did cry was because they were teaching us how to make, joined letters and joined alphabets, and how to string different components of letters into a word.
Okay.
And I could already read by then. I was reading advanced level books. So I had never learned that, if you string together, let's say C plus A plus T, it means cat. I could directly read the word cat. So when this weird formula, which seemed mathematical to my eyes, came in front of me on the board, which said C plus A plus T, I got thoroughly disturbed because I had never learned to read like that. I could already read whole books. So I started crying because I had no idea what to do with it. And that was the first time I felt like a failure. Well, that was the beginning of my school journey. And interestingly, since you have done it in your PhD in family studies, and you have been working in the field, I think one of my inclinations at a much later stage in life was toward the field of education, and also toward the field of psychology, because I realized that a lot of things at school level here, the way that we were taught, could have been taught differently. And now, when I teach my students, I try to do just that. I try to involve all the experiential learning practices, all the activity based learning practices that unfortunately were not a part of our system when we were growing up.
Right.
So I was exposed in school to good and not so good methods as well, to be fair. In college, with many teachers, it was that same system where you come into class, you give a lecture, the student writes, you give a lecture, and for the class just is over after that. And it's again pretty weird because the teacher is reading off literally the book and her notes, and she's dictating those, and the student is too busy writing them down to even process that information properly. So that, and all of that combined, led me toward furthering my education then later on in psychology, because I strongly felt that whereas I did not go toward educational psychology still, but still I went toward the field of education, which means now I practice clinical psychology, I teach as well. And it also helped that my father also came from the teaching line. He was a professor of architecture, and plus he was an architect as well. So he practiced, plus he kind of balanced that with his teaching. So do I now. So I find myself in a similar domain. And right now I'm the head of department at the Institute of Professional Psychology here in Karachi.
Oh my God. Thank you for sharing your journey, because I'm glad I asked. I wanted to meet that little Kieran, and like I was fascinated the way that you shared me the story, like why you cried, how you cried. And oh my God, that is totally it just made my
So
day.
those are the secrets I feel that, make us very human. And a lot of people feel that, one has to be perfect. I was one of those people as a child where I was just too bent on, having everything perfect. Now I feel that, a lot of things around us are not really meant to be perfect. And if we just keep striving to get that perfection, we're losing a bit of ourselves in that process. And also, there's so much more to live for. There's so much more in life. And sometimes I think my artistic temperament gets the best of me, because I do believe that a little bit of creative chaos and chaos at the same time just helps to build that creativity up, and it helps to get it out of your system.
Right.
So in the poetry that I put forward, in the art that I do, even in the teaching that I do, uh, I'm organized, structured, but at the same time, I feel that a bit of focusing on all of these things just makes us who we are, very human.
For sure, for sure. Give me a like brief walk to your like us, or to say the glimpse of your day. How does your day look like? I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
my day, oh my God. My day is pretty crazy. So I have a cat. My cat will come into this conversation, I think, more frequently if I'm talking about my day, because my day starts with a cat scratching somewhere or the other in my room, waking me up. So that's how my day
I
officially
was to
begins.
see her
But
so much.
obviously,
Oh my God. I was to see her because I wanted to know about her. Like, I mean, through the picture, I have seen her and I'm a big fan.
yes,
But yeah, tell me. And I
okay.
don't blame you when you start your day with cat. I don't blame you.
My day begins with this cat. Her name is Penny.
Yeah.
And she is, I think, the bundle of joy in my life. So she is scratching something or the other to wake me up. And of course, she wants her breakfast. So in that same moment, then I end up having my breakfast as well. Though at that point, I'm like, please go to sleep, because I want to go to sleep. And I just want those, precious 5 minutes more of precious sleep in my life. But no, she will not have it. So yes, I wake up and I give her her breakfast. And then I do a couple of house chores before heading out to my university. So university is terribly busy because yes, it's like, a full day office work situation. In between, I have my classes, there are a number of meetings. And along with that, because I'm also looking at reports in the clinic that we have associated with the university, sorry, with the institute that we're working in. So, in fact, the clinic has a very interesting name. It's called Umeed No, which means new hope. So it is like, a kind of a hope situation for, or a place where we can say that, new hope rises for people who come into us. So I really love this name. So it's called Umeed No, and this is the clinic where a lot of clients keep coming in. So the reports and everything that are generated from the clinic, usually I have to look at those. So there are a number of things that are part of my duty at university. So I'm into all of that. And along with that, then, finally, when I'm heading home in the evening, I might have a couple of things to do there. And yes, finally, then I'm home again, greeted by my cat. So this is like a major part of my morning time. And of course, the evening is with family and with friends and relatives. So depending on, what's happening or what's going on at that point.
Right.
So those are the things that I'm into. That's like a typical part of my day.
Sure.
And along with that, I do enjoy cooking. I do enjoy cooking for people more than cooking for myself. So quite often I really like it, when people come over, I'm able to cook for them and literally feed them. And luckily, lots of people like my cooking. So that really works out. I, of course, would not want to be in the kitchen on a regular basis. So that's not me. But yes, I do cook when I want to. And especially, I'm kind of lazy about it when it is too hot, like nowadays. Still, in better weather, I would happily be in the kitchen all day and every day. But in the kind of weather we are in right now, there's a heat wave going on in Karachi at this point. So in fact, we are hoping or expecting rain perhaps next week. If that happens, that would be great. But I've just heard that it's going to be in the northern regions of Pakistan and not in the southern one. So not too happy about that. But but that's like a typical day for me.
See, I saw like I had like quite many C's, starting
Uh-huh.
with cat, creative, creative chaos. I love that word that you mentioned, right? And then I can see your creative interest in many areas. And I wanted to go a little bit in my probably next question on the hobbies and whatnot. But here, let me
Yeah.
stop a bit and ask you, because it looks like you have so many things going on, right? I'm like, creative
Yes.
art professor is in home with
In
your
fact, quite often
husband.
I talk to many of my friends, and the one complaint I think I have from life is that why do we have only 24 hours in the day? Because I find them to be too less. There's so much that I want to do, so much that I'm interested in. And my one complaint from this entire solar system and the management of time is that if we were sleeping for, let's say, 7 hours, there's much more that I want to do in the rest of the hours, and I don't have enough time.
Wow. Okay.
Because there's still, I
Well,
have a long list of things that I really want to learn and do. And I honestly don't get time for that.
wow. So having said that, how do you kind of like balance your personal life and professional life? Because you have so much in when you enter to the university as a professor and to the institute, right? You have like different roles and whatnot in home,
Yes.
family, plans like are different. So how do you balance both when you have only 24 hours and probably, I mean, that complaint would be there always.
I made a couple of rules for myself. First of all, I have a social media presence, but then I have separate profiles. So I believe in compartmentalization, and I do that all the time with literally everything. So I compartmentalize my days, my hours, my social media presence. So I have a separate personal profile, I have a separate professional profile,
Right.
and the two don't really mix. So I have things that I post on both, but then there are things that I keep private and personal because there is a core of me that is very private and I like to retain it like that.
Definitely.
So there will be things that if I'm not saying out loud or if I'm not really, airing them out loud, then nobody really knows. So that is still personal and that's still private. So that's one part of it. And the other is, that in my hours, I have this little rule for myself. It was not like that earlier, but with time, I've had to do it. My mother often used to complain. She had this little thing where she used to say, and I'll say this in Urdu and then I'll translate it. She used to say that, ungli pakad ke Montessori bheja tha, and jo bheja to uske baad abhi tak ke bas wahi ja rahi hai. So she had this thing where she would say that, she had just taken me by the finger and she had taken me to Montessori when I was a child. And ever since then, it seems that I have never really given up on that. So I'm still going to school, whether it's, a school for children or it's a school for adults. I'm still at that school. So that was one thing she always used to say. So I think I was not that good at time management earlier on, but with time I have learned as well. And one thing that I've mainly learned, and I just follow it as much as possible, is that I try not to bring my work home. So whatever it is, even if
No, it is
there's
challenging, right?
obviously the outstanding,
Right.
but I try to stay back at university and complete all my work right there. So I don't bring it home with me. So when I'm home, then I'm just at home. Then I relax, I enjoy time with my family, with my friends, with myself, with Netflix, with other things. So then that's my time. And then one good thing about being in university is that we do get 2 days off. So it's 5 days a week of work
Right.
and then 2 days off. So in those 2 days, then I manage my clients and my personal time. So that's my me time. That's where I relax with friends. I go out, I socialize. So all of that happens then.
Wow. Okay. I mean, a couple points that you have shared. I mean, I can resonate with that as well because the thing that your mom told you is my kids have been telling me because yeah, I'm in school every time. And I mean, that is a comment that we hear being in academia, right? But
No, with me, it got multiplied. I think my mother's angst got multiplied by two because she had seen my father do that all his life. So then she was like, "Pehle baap ka, ab beti bhi ho gayi." So first the father was like that, and now the daughter is like that, and she used to just keep comparing, and she'd be like, "You're like two peas in a pod, and you're always with your nose in a book." So you need to get your nose out of that book. But with my father, it was very literal, because I'll just share something interesting with you. In fact, on Eid just went by.
Uh-huh.
That's a holy festival Muslims here. And on Eid day, I was just discussing with a few cousins of mine that if we used to ever go out shopping, my father, and it would, those crazy sales where everybody is running helter skelter and everybody is just, into getting all the best deals and things are flying off the racks. And now, in the middle of all that chaos, my father would be sitting calmly somewhere in the middle of it, sitting or standing with a book, and there could be dozens of people running all around him, and he would be oblivious to the world.
Wow.
He would simply be there with his book and, just his book. And, sometimes we'd run to him, show him something, and he would just briefly look up, say, yeah, 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 and then put his head down again in that book still. So, well, I think I was somewhere in between, but that's, the kind of inspiration I've had in my life. So somewhere I think some of that has come inside me as well. But
Wow.
yes, I take out time to enjoy, and I make sure that, the 2 days that I have, in that there's adequate time for my personal, professional growth as well. I'd say that somewhere seeing clients and pursuing psychology and seeing cases is more of like a passion for me. So more than my bread and butter, because I don't treat it as such, it's more like one of my hobbies, plus the idea of analysis and really getting into the minds of people has always been the intriguing part of it. And it is, I find it like both an art and a science to conduct therapy with clients and to really get into their heads, to help them reach their full potential, their goals, help them realize their goals. So that's always been the case. And I really enjoy that process. So I am very happy giving up my weekend for that process as long as it brings someone else joy. And I think one of the biggest achievements I feel out of that entire process is when I can see that, some things have changed in a person's life for the better. And if that's happened, I think that's, the best gift that I can give myself.
Definitely. And with the name that you shared, that new hope, and when you are able to give that, right, at that extra smile, at that extra hope, and that's, yeah, definitely I can see that. And thank you for sharing. And with this, I would like to, I'm tempted to ask, beside your father and mother, of course, like parents are always there. And in this platform, we talk about family and career, right? So beside your
Yes.
father, who is there any inspiration or that mentor that in your life whom, I mean, who inspired Kieran to be who he is, like creative, like so passionate.
I will definitely say, and I think it will be sad if I leave out, some of the names. So let me just say generally then that from Montessori life onwards and even primary, there have been a number of teachers who have really inspired me. And at one point when I was very young, I started off from the idea that I would become an astronaut. Then I realized that I'm not very good at math. So that was out not happening. But I'm excellent at physics, always have been. So since math was not my main domain, I gave up being an astronaut. And after that, it was like, okay, let's become a teacher, perhaps. But it was not something that I was gearing myself toward. Eventually, when it happened, I was kind of happy that it did happen, because I really felt like I'd found my calling. And there are, number of teachers. There was this a lady in my school who is now, in fact, the principal of the whole school, and she carries on her work there. So that's one of the ladies who actually really inspired me. And I've seen that there's a very typical thing that I'm inspired by. I've seen that in my father, I've seen that in a number of teachers, and
Mhm.
that's their humility. It's they let this work speak for themselves. They don't have to say who they are. They
Right.
don't have to brag about it. They don't have to repeat it over and over again. When they walk in a class, that class, or I feel that the biggest impact, uh, I would say, achievement of a teacher is when you don't have to tell students to study. They study because you've inspired them already with the beauty of the subject. And they study because they actually take that inspiration from you, they take that motivation from you. And if that's happening, I think that's the biggest thing ever. So if they're compulsory subjects, you don't really have a choice. But if they're elective subjects, and if a student comes in and takes that elective that you are teaching, so I think that's a big achievement for you as well. So I just derive my pleasure from that. And I think the teachers that I am really inspired by, they are the ones who, I would really want to sit and listen to for hours. I've always been a keen learner, so that wasn't difficult. But yes, there are teachers who can make you doze off, which I do as easily. So did not get inspired there. But there are people whose humbleness, their humility, their dedication toward their work, their professional practice, everything has really inspired me. And I'm not taking any names deliberately. I know that some people might be disappointed, but I'm not taking any names deliberately because of this fear that I might leave out someone. And then I'll later on look at this video and think, oh my God, I left out the name of this person. But yes, all across, in my school, in my college, in my university, again, number of teachers who have definitely inspired me. And I really look up to them.
And my respect to the mentors that who have inspired you, because I can see that humble attitude in you too, like when you talk, when you presence yourself, right? So, and tell me a little bit about the mental health or the awareness areas, because as I said that, I mean, since we have been connecting through the social media and whatnot, I have been following you presenting in that area, right? So tell me a little more, because when you connected that new hope and like inspiring people, impacting people's lives and bringing the change. So
okay, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel that the journey toward mental health in Pakistan has kind of been a patchy one at best, because I joined in this field at a time when, luckily, in fact, people much senior to me and much more experienced to me, they had already made significant contributions to the field. And I think they had the rockiest time of all, because they had to really go through all the stigma, all the things that, if you were asking someone to come in for therapy, they would say, Ki hum pagal to nahi hai, or that we're not mad. We're not mad people. Are you thinking that we're mad? And they would really take it as an insult. So even it was, supposed at that time, my own parents thought, because, they had heard from a lot of people that this is such a heavy field that eventually anyone who joins this field will eventually go crazy themselves. And they will start behaving in an eccentric manner, or they will be eccentric individuals themselves with no life, and they will just be dealing with people bound up in chains and whatnot. So the general impression has been like that. But I've seen that time, but it's been a long time in this field. I started studying almost 17 years ago, and now that all this time has passed, I'd say that at this point things are looking up, definitely for psychologists here in Pakistan. And now, well, the stigma is always going to be there, I think, at some level, but the stigma is much, much less. Now people do take this as, a given that if there's a problem, then help needs to be sought out. And I would really like to appreciate, in fact, many of the schools for this, because in schools, the teachers who were able to point things out, they were able to point the students to the right direction. And now that school counselors have become more common, the government is also taking a keen interest. It's become better, so that youngsters, teenagers, they can come in for career counseling, they can come in for different types of things related to, as diverse a thing as IQ testing, to even finding out if there are behavioral problems, how to manage them better. Young and early, much needed diagnoses of ADHD and autism and many more things. So when youngsters come in, quite often we're able to get to their parents as well, and then bring in the importance of, that would be to your interest, of family therapy and family oriented approaches. With the rise in, unfortunately, a lot of divorce related issues in Pakistan, comes the natural need for marital therapy and marital counseling, and something that I've been advocating for ages. You need premarital counseling as well on so many things for individuals to be healthy first as individuals, and then become a healthier unit as they join together in as a family. So
Definitely.
all of those things are very, very important. And I'm glad to see that in Pakistan now, things are really looking up for clinical psychologists and for educational psychologists. Organizational psychologists are, quite in the run as well, because now they're involved in training, in development, in a lot of different practices in organizations. Quite often, promotion boards are held in the same way, so that organizational psychologists are very much involved in that process. This is right now the main, I think, mainstay of psychology. But one thing that I would really like to look forward to now is perhaps, more fields coming in, because psychology is so diverse.
Mhm.
We have different fields all across the world that are not yet really coming up in Pakistan, from environmental psychology to forensic psychology to even music psychology. And there are so many others that people haven't really heard of. I'm interested in many of them, and I really hope to see that they come in future in Pakistan, and they're pretty much gain popularity as well. There's one other thing that I'm currently interested in, and I hope to really bring it to the forefront as life goes on. I hope that Allah gives me that opportunity here. That's horticulture therapy. So
Okay.
that's not really at the front in Pakistan right now, but I want it to be.
Wow. And as you mentioned, I mean, like not only in Pakistan, I live in here in the US, right? Here as well, it is kind of considered a heavy subject. And even though there are lots of people, youngsters especially, like I'm in university, in college, like right from high school, they need so much help, but still they are reluctant. And again, even here, I was, oh my God, I mean, like, what much we can do about it, right? There's so much to do still. And then thank you for sharing that. So we are almost to the end of the talk today, but tell me, like, share us some of the like messages to the young generation, college student and whatnot, regarding their career choice, that what they should look for. Or sometimes we as parents, sometimes I mean we have certain expectation our parents have for us, right? But so what would be your message to the young generation who wanted to pursue their
I'm really glad you asked me that question, because sometimes it really becomes like a thorn when I ask students when they're coming in. There's the initial admission interview, and I ask them, okay, why do you want to be in this field? And the answer comes as my brother or my mother or my father told me that I should be here. So my first question is that, well, who are you? I'm talking to you, right? So the main thing, I think, the problematic thing that I quite often come across is that young students are not even seeing themselves as individuals. They are seeing themselves as just pawns who are being moved up around by their parents. So I would
we have
definitely,
been presented. Yeah, but like, yeah, definitely.
it's literally like that, and it's frustrating, because quite often I end up saying that, well, right now it's you in front of me, so am I hearing from your father? He's speaking through you. Am I hearing from your mother? She's suddenly speaking through you, but I'm talking to you.
We must
So I
have
need to
caught
hear
them
it
off
from
guard
you.
sometime, right?
But it's not their fault. They have been primed in such a way from the very beginning that they're not supposed to really think for themselves. So if they're not thinking for themselves to begin with, then well, how can I blame them? But I'm not really here blaming even the parents, because it's bigger than this. It's bigger than us. It's part of an entire societal issue where we don't treat people as individuals. In fact, with the even 15, 16-year olds, we just tell ourselves that they are brainless, they can't think, we know better than them, so we're going to tell them what they're supposed to think. And that then leads to a larger problem, because they get into those fields which are, first of all, not their calling to begin with. It's very difficult to find your calling. I'm not saying that you will immediately, it's not like a magic trick that you will find it, but it is beneficial, definitely, if students from a very young age are given more exposure to different career choices. If they are, I literally had that benefit, because my parents unknowingly, I kind of goaded them into it. My father had started working at a very young age.
Right.
And so I also told him that, well, if you started working at a very young age, I want to do that too. And he resisted for quite a long time, but then he finally gave in. And I was able to, at the age of 15, start working with a couple of NGOs, and I was exposed to community work. So I still got exposure to a number of different places, organizations, setups. And in the end, I was able to even convince my college principal, who refused to let me get admission in arts. She said that, I should get admission in science only. And I was able to convince her that arts is also a good subject and it should be studied. So I got admission in arts, though I was highest on the merit list. But she insisted that I should be in science. But these are the kind of issues we come across. So first of all, I would definitely say that youngsters need to be more aware of the kind of career choices, and bear the brunt of some of the burden of this responsibility falls on the parents, falls on the teachers to make them aware, to have more seminars, to have more career discussions around this, so that students actually go towards somewhere where they're supposed to be, and they don't end up in places where eventually they are dissatisfied with their career choices. And also along with that, also note that growth is a constant. The same child who was perhaps very, we can say maybe very selfish, very mean, a bully perhaps at 12 years of age, is not going to stay like that for the rest of his life. So you give someone a bad name and kind of hang them. That's something that parents also need to be very cautious with, because there can be growth at any level and at every level. So if you have that growth mindset, then you will be able to move further in life. If you end up kind of convincing yourself that this or that happened in my life and I'm just going to, sit with it, then you'll definitely be sitting with it for a lifetime. So that's definitely one message that I'd like to put out there.
Definitely, that is powerful. And how about to the parents? Because sometimes parents, I mean, like even considering our parents, their idea is not like they have a well intention, right? So,
but a lot of parents are very stuck on the fact that their offspring needs to earn a lot of money, and they need to be in a field where there's a lot of money. So my thing with that is, because I'm a firm believer that if you're doing what you're really passionate about,
right.
you will find the motivation to really be at it. You're really work at your job, and with that, money is going to flow. But yes, if you believe that you're going to be a millionaire or billionaire overnight, not everybody comes first in class and not everybody becomes a millionaire. So having more realistic expectations from yourself, from your children, would actually be in their benefit.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. And probably, I mean, this question, I was about to end the program, but this question I'm so much tempted to ask. And when you just mentioned about the money, right, and the different interest and career and whatnot, one of the area, like my dissertation was on women entrepreneurs and financial independence. That was my dissertation. So I'm kind
That's
of
interesting.
interested to ask you, because seeing your like passion, interest in different areas, right, from skincare to, I don't know, arts and whatnot, right? So have you
Yeah,
ever considered like starting your business, or you already have? I don't know.
I
And how do
actually
you?
have. In
Oh,
fact, I have my own business online, and
okay,
I run it. I think WhatsApp has done a great job with the WhatsApp business app. So I run my business through that,
okay,
and everything online.
right.
So yes, it's pretty established. I launched it sometime back this year, and since then it's been going on pretty well.
Wonderful. I'm glad I asked, because on this, I mean, on the same context, I would like to ask, like, why do you think, because in Pakistan, here in Texas, and from Nepal, Canada, everywhere, right? Why financial independence for women is important? Like, uh,
Oh, it is very important. In fact, I'm seeing such a rise in divorce cases, unfortunately. And in most of these cases, and then there are, so many cases where women are forced to live in relationships or marriages that are not working just because they don't have financial independence. But that being said, it's not just that. I mean, there's so much more to it. Whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, everyone has a certain level of self-concept and self-esteem. So even if a person, is not married or anything, we're not talking about, just divorces over here
right.
or failed relationships. It's more bigger than that. A person, a man, woman, child, anyone, financial independence simply gives them that idea of a very solid, concrete idea that we are productive individuals. So that idea of I am useful, I'm a productive individual, I have talents that I can put to use and I get something in return. That very idea is, I think one of the most self-empowering things that leads toward, all those psychological concepts, efficacy, esteem. So they all rise as a result and as a response to this very idea of money making. So that money might not be perhaps enough to give them complete financial independence, but whatever little stipend you do get, that always gives you a boost for your self-esteem. So I'm all for women entrepreneurs when they're at home. And, this COVID actually created a lot of those opportunities for entrepreneurs here in Karachi, as I saw. I saw that so many women opened up their home businesses of food, of a lot of, home-based, even stitching and sewing, and so many things came up with it. Some people started their own candle making or little businesses that were even skincare related. And I always, in fact, appreciate all those people. I came across a number of them. I'm friends with a number of them. So I always say that, everybody has skin. So everybody has needs. Everybody has a stomach. We all need to eat. So the more that come up, the market is never going to be, completely full with it. And there is always going to be a little niche in the market for everyone. So I always appreciate all these people who come forth, especially the women entrepreneurs, because whether they are earning a little or a lot, whatever little they do, that contributes to their mental health and well-being.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. And like, I'm glad I asked this because seeing you, you would be a successful entrepreneur, and glad that you have already started. So the very final question, what would be like the best way to reach out to you if there are like people like from here in Texas or all over US, if they want to connect to you? And what would be the final thing that you would like to say if I forget to ask?
I think eventually I'll need a social media because I'm so bad at, I think, responding to people on a regular basis. But still, yes, I do have a very viable social media presence. So I am very much there. I think the most active account might be my social media account on Facebook. So that's active. Then I have, as I said earlier, that I compartmentalize a lot. So Instagram is more for my poetry, and I kind of put my photographs there, and along with photographs, there's always a little verse or so. So you might see some of those over there. And I have a LinkedIn account, but I'm not very active on LinkedIn. So I would say that the best way to reach out to me personally would be through my Facebook page. So it's by my full name, that is Kieran Bashir Ahmed, comma PhD. So I'm there. I'm on Twitter as well. So yeah, there it's at the rate of Kieran BA. So that's where I am. And well, generally, if you just search me for me by name, a lot should come up.
Thank you for sharing that. And is there any final word or sentence that you would like to share that I forgot to ask and you wanted to?
I think we've pretty much covered everything. And if I go on a tangent somewhere else, I'll just keep talking and we'll never end this. But it was great chatting with you.
Thank you so very much. And again, like conversation like this, meeting like this, makes me like personally thankful to start this platform where through a TeaTalk, as simple as it is, but we get to learn so much from each other.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all this. Thank you.